Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about my most recent experience as a client getting counseling. The first thing that I noticed right off the bat that was a red flag to me was the lady answered her phone in the beginning of our session. Now, she has 10 years of experience. She has a licensed counselor, 10 years of experience counseling, okay? She's not new around the block. So I figured she'd be really good. Maybe I'd learn things from her, things like that. I learned exactly what not to do, which, you hear about these things as a counselor when you have adult clients and they tell you their horror stories about counselors that they've had, but until you're actually in it yourself, you don't really believe it. So the first red flag for me is she answered a phone. And it was only just to tell the person on the other line that she's about to be in a session and she cannot, talk to them. She'll call them back. But for me, I don't even look at my phone. Even when I'm just starting a session, I put my phone on silent and it's face down from the beginning of the session until the end of the session, until I'm no longer in the presence of the person that I'm counseling. I want them to know they have my undivided attention. I just think it's kind of rude. But I didn't think too much of it at first because, whatever, everybody's got their own little way. Maybe, she was a mom like myself. Maybe she just, all her kids were adults. She was older than me. She was old enough to be my mother. So maybe I don't know, maybe she had grandkids. I don't know. And she just wanted to make sure things were okay. It was not an emergency. I have no idea. And I wouldn't have thought anything of it until, so we were talking and then her phone dings and she sees this notification on her phone about the parental rights bill. She asks, what is that bill about? And so I kind of just told her this is what it says. And so then she goes into talking about she had a client in the past who was 11 years old who was trans, and she referred them out to somebody else because she didn't want to deal with that. And she was kind of just I can't even her reaction when she was telling me the story was she was just laughing about it the whole time and telling me that she just told him, you're 11 years old. What are you talking about? All this stuff. And the mom was upset with her. And so she just referred them out somewhere else. And I'm just sitting there my gosh. First of all, she's violated so many rules. Number one, HIPAA violation. Don't tell me about your other clients. Number two, I'm your client right now. You should be focused on me, not your other clients. Number three, why did you pick up your phone to look at the notification? And then proceed to ask me about this political question, Number four, what if I were trans? She hadn't even asked me at this point about my sexual identity, about my culture, none of it. So for all she knows, I could definitely be a trans person and be offended by what she's saying. And boom, like that, she loses her license because I could report her, right? So I'm just sitting here what the hell is going on right now? So, okay. So after we finished talking about that, she starts talking about her kids. Her kids are all adults. One's a pharmacist, or I think her nephew is a pharmacist. Her son is a psychiatrist, and her other son's in medical school. And I'm just sitting here kind of why are you telling me about your life? This is my therapy session. She's barely asked me anything about myself at this point. She's still just talking about herself. And so I'm just kind of I feel like I should be getting paid for this session because she's talking to me about herself. I know a lot about her now. And she knows nothing about me yet, right? So she asked me finally about my psychiatric history. I told her I was in counseling when I was in college, when I was in undergrad. She asked me about previous diagnosis. I told her I was diagnosed with social anxiety disorder back in college. She asked me how I'm coping with that. I said, I'm coping with it pretty well. Every day brings its own challenges, but you kind of I'm not really here for that today. I'm here for other things like life changes and dealing with that and adapting, I guess you would say. And So she's like, okay, how are you? She didn't ask me how I was sleeping. I actually brought this up. I said I'm having some sleep issues. Sometimes I'm up for a very long time and I can't sleep. And so I had to ask her this a few times because I don't know what it was. She just wasn't getting it. And she kept talking about other things that had nothing to do with me. And so I had to keep asking her, okay, well, what about sleep? Well, what about sleep? Well, I think I asked 3 times about sleep. Hello, hintity hint hint, I'm having sleep issues. So she finally talks about sleep and how different ways that I can like help myself get to sleep. Tips that she gave me, some, you know, I already knew because I'm also in the field. Some I didn't know. And some are contrary to what I've read in the literature, which she did admit, you know, when she was telling it to me. And then she said, I'm gonna send you like this document that has like some sleep tips. And she got it from Therapist Aid, which I use. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then, I mean, I swear, I think we talked about me for 10 minutes of the 1 hour that I was supposed to have my session. Yeah, so it was terrible. I told her I was a counselor. Maybe that was my mistake. Maybe I shouldn't have done that, because she started asking me about like where I work, and if they're hiring. Basically what we do at my job, and things like that. But I thought, you know, she's asking me these questions because she's interested to see how the stress and the, you know, duties impact my mental health. It didn't seem like that at all. The more I talked about it, the more it seemed like she was just trying to figure out if it's a place she would want to work. That's all just to say it left not a negative taste in my mouth, because although I found it hilarious, my counselor should be focused on me. They shouldn't be focused on politics. They definitely should not be telling me about other clients that they've had, and they should not be telling me about their lives. When I'm counseling people, any questions that they have about my personal life, I kind of like turn it on to them, like, well, how come you're interested in that? Or I'll give them a short, simple, vague answer, and then I'll turn it back to them again. You'll usually find, you know, there's a reason for the question that has nothing to do with me. Actually, it has more to do with them. That's why they asked the question. But with her, it was kind of like I didn't ask her any personal questions, but she just divulges all of this information onto me, and I know way too much about her, and I really shouldn't know all of these things, especially, you know, not after I've only seen her once. So needless to say, I not canceled, but I quote unquote fired, I don't know how else to say it, but that counselor, because I was like, I just spent an hour talking about, and I didn't really get much from it, and we talked about mostly her and her political beliefs and her previous clients and her family life, and we didn't talk about me very much. She probably doesn't know very much about me at all. So I was just kind of like, this is what the biggest lesson that taught me was, that it doesn't matter how long you've been doing a job, you can still be terrible at it. And I guess I knew that kind of because my clients have previously told me that they've had terrible counselors before, and that's why they had like stopped going to counseling, and like some kind of event happened in their life recently that made them so distressed that they sought it again. But they sought it with somebody else, which was me. And not that I didn't believe my clients, but I didn't understand that the situation is so prevalent. Like, it is so prevalent that there are bad counselors out there, and it's like, wowee. It made me feel really good about myself as a counselor, because I'm like, even though I've only been in the field for a couple of years, I can do way better than that lady. So, and I do way better than that lady. So like, it just gave me a little bit more confidence in myself. But it also showed me like what it feels like to have a counselor who really is not focused on you. And I don't want to make my clients feel that way. Like, I want to make sure that this is their space to talk about themselves and to create whatever that space is going to look like for them. And so that was just very interesting. interesting session. And I have another counseling session with a different counselor on Friday. Hopefully that goes a lot better than this one. This lady has 4 years of experience, so 6 years less than the other counselor, but as I've learned, it doesn't matter how many years you've been doing this, you can still be terrible and you can still be wonderful. Like I think I am, because people have told me that I'm a great counselor. So I don't think people have told her that. Maybe they have, I don't know. My counseling session was terrible. So but anyways, let me know in the comments if you've also had terrible counseling experiences. What do you look for in a counselor? What do you like? What do you really dislike? What are your positive experiences, your negative experiences? I'm eager to know so that I can learn from you too. Thanks for watching, and like and subscribe. Bye.